We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years, approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a 3rd grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is that not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest. Which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time you are watching this video. Do you hear how my voice is up-tempo? Do you hear the energy you're about to receive? How many of you are going to be informed, educated, and possibly wealthy? I'm serious. This is huge and monumental what this video is going to do. Today, we're going to talk about the Freedmen Bureau, a collection of ideas and concepts that we are working together with a new organization
a new, fresh perspective of ADOS and Black people first and first Black family and whichever you want to call yourself. The descendants of African American slaves. You need to chime in right now. Stop what you're doing. Stay on this video and get the like button up because this is monumental. So let me start off with this. As a descendant of slaves, I believe we are divided into three parts. Get your pen and paper and take notes. Get your pen and paper and take notes with your handy dandy notebook. We're divided into three parts. We're divided, and I use the word tribe, and I've had other people use other terms. I'm going to say it like this. We're divided by tribe, genealogy, and DNA. And when we go DNA, you know what DNA means? That they test you and they can tell what your body is comprised of and what country you come from or whatever things that you are part of. Like I did my DNA and I'm from Sierra Leone and I'm from 8% English. My grandmother was half white. I'll do a video on that one day. And go for so on and so forth, right? So that's DNA. Genealogy is your grandparents, your great-grandparents, and so forth. Genealogy solidifies the opportunity of wealth for African-American descendants of slaves. People in this country, especially California, speak from a position of disposition. When they speak to you, they speak from a disposition point of view. They'll come up to you and say, well, I'm from and I'm this. And then when they address us, they think that we don't know our history because a lot of us don't. If you want to know your history and how to address these people, you must watch this video. I don't care what time it is. Watch this video. Get your pen and paper. Okay, I told you three parts, right? So we talked about DNA and your genealogy. So my father had me when he was really old. He was really old. He was almost 50. Now that's not old, but for a man to have a child that old in his 50s, you know, it's a different story. So anyway, he almost was about 50, and he was born in 1920. He would be 101. God, I can believe that. My father would be 101 right now. My mother was born in 1928. My father's father was born in 1854. So I always ask you guys, do you know who your mother is, your grandfather is, and your great-grandfather? Everyone has four names. I did that video. I'm going to say that real quick. Everybody has four names. There's your name and your mother's name. So if your name is Betty and Betty Brown, you married Mr. Brown, but you were born Betty Thomas. Okay, so Betty Thomas is what your real name is, right? Your birth name. I shouldn't say your real name, your birth name. Then that's the name your father probably had, but your mother was a Harris. So you have a Thomas and a Harris. That's two names. And then those two ancestors married somebody with another name. I stop right there and I call it the four-name framework. So you need to know your four-name framework. Take your name. If you're a woman, you have a maiden name. You have your father's, your mother's. If you're a man and you're brown, you just got to go mother and father. And from their mother and father, those mother and fathers have two different grandparents' names. And that starts your line of genealogy. When I say tribe, for example, don't hold this against me. I don't know the man. You know, right now, Travis is real popular because of what happened at this concert. I'm not going down that road, but his last name is Webster. I'm related to the Websters because I am also a Webster. I've never met him. I don't know if we're DNA related or genealogy related, but we might be tribe related because his family's out of Texas and my family has family that dates back to 1854 Texas. So there were many Blacks that when they were freed, listen, get your handy dandy notebooks, put the like button up. I know I'm telling you a lot of information and you will probably rewind this, pause it, and take notes. That would be smarter. Going back to Travis and me, if you are from a Webster tribe or you say, hey, I am also Webster, you might have been from the Webster plantation because white slave owners had their last name. And when we were freed, we took the last name of the slave owners and we were considered freedmen. The men and women who were already freed did not have a slave master. So they took the name upon them as freedmen. So a lot of people you meet whose real name really is last name Freedmen have found out, not all, but a lot of these people didn't have a person to a slave master to connect to. So they became, because they were freed, they took the name Freedmen. Freedmen is essential for us to understand that aspect of history, to deal with this racial tension, this bias, this liberal, this progressive move to have us engulfed into being a culture of people of extinction. This is what I'm seeing with African American descendants of slaves of America. Okay, I said America, not Caribbean, not Trinidad, not and no teacher shade to any of those other people. But for some reason, there's a disposition of people not understanding who we are. Tonight's guest, I want you to hear from her. Her name is Angela, and she is part of the ADOS, Black People First Foundational People. She gonna straighten me out, trust me. But I'm so excited because I want to bring her perspective on 3 points. I want to talk about the Freedmen Bureau, and I want to tell you how you can find out your own history and how this is going to liberate us if we can get this information. So let me bring this sister on right now. Angela, can you come on in and share your love with us? You're an amazing sister.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for having me, Miss Shirley HUSAR. This is Angela NIRVANA from the Reparationist perspective, and I'm very thrilled to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. So let's get right into the video. I want to talk about and share with you my perspective of the Freedmen Bureau. Can you share with our guests real quick, why did you change your name? You're no longer ADOS. You're not
Right.
part of that. If you have your group, you are not part of Yvette Cornell's group, but we still have a growing movement of us who are descendants of slaves, no matter what title we hold, we're still family. Can you share that perspective real quick?
Yes, well, I was one of the co-founders of the ADOS movement, and we part ways because we couldn't come to a meeting of the minds about the direction of the ADOS movement. And it doesn't mean that I don't embrace comrades who are still with the ADOS movement, but it goes by a different name now. I think it's the ADOS Advocacy Foundation or something like that. So some of us decided to stay because we wanted to, be ran in the way that Yvette saw appropriate. And then others of us decided to go our own way and to morph into other organizations so that we could collaborate with other grassroots organizations throughout the nation. So that's one very unique way in which we now move. We collaborate all over the country. You can keep your autonomy, but you can still work collectively under our new monikers. The National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants, NAASD, is one of the that's the federal national fight for reparations now. That's where a bunch of us who were really doing a lot of the work and really the original founders of the ADOS movement went the way of NASD. And the beauty of NASD is that, it morphed into what I've always desired, which was that we all work collectively towards the greater good of reparations. Unlike the ADOS Advocacy Foundation, which basically, you have to kind of be in that club. They don't partner outside of that advocacy foundation. That's just one of many ways in how we differ now that we've, gone separate ways.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Well, everyone out here who are in this space, no matter what we call each other, the energy is high, it's real, it's thorough, and each one of us bring a different piece to the puzzle. The puzzle is showing the truth of what America is comprised of and how it was created. And so even if your piece of the puzzle has a different acronym, you're with Tariq, you're with Yvette, this is not a video of attacking each other. This is a video so that hopefully we can get those pieces out to each other to bring us all together. So I found out some interesting information. And, you know, you call yourself a freedman. So I think we should talk about that.
That's only reason.
And that's the only reason. That's okay, it's a reason. But you do call yourself that, right?
Oh, yeah. I do identify as a number of things. But more recently, I started using the term freedman because I had a gentleman from the Sons and Daughters of Freedmen come onto my show as a guest, and he broke it down for me. Like, there are a couple of things that really stuck out. Was number one, we're not descendants. We already have an identity that's on the record, that's on the books, and it's tied to everything that we are owed. Like, we don't have to reinvent the wheel with all of these other acronyms. Not that there's a challenge or a problem to identify as Black American descendant of U.S. chattel slavery, or my term, ADOC, is American descendant of chattel slavery. I believe that chattel is the debt. But one of the things Prime, made apparently clear for me was that we don't have to make up acronyms or make up and identify any other way but freedmen. And it wasn't just Prime that shared that with me. Miss Asun Powell, who is a real strong faction of the NASD organization that we've morphed into, she was the one to really bring home the idea that there was no reason, no rhyme or reason for us to self-identify outside of the Freedman name, because the Freedman is tied to the reparations that Lincoln and Sherman granted us after our ancestors served in the Civil War to gain our freedom, that we were entitled with 40 acres and a mule and a bank and all these kinds of things. And we were entitled to protections in the whole 9 yards. And then Andrew Jackson or Johnson, I always get them mixed up, came in and took all of the things that we had earned from having won the Civil War for the Union. Andrew Jackson, I think, he took all of those goodies and then he proceeded to give our repair to our white slave masters and white immigrants. And that's been happening to us ever since. Basically, the weaponization of our wealth against us that white people killed and stole from our lineage to endow and enrich the slave owners as well as the white immigrants. And now the way in which they're giving away our reparations is to the POC, the minority. Ever since the Immigration Act, they've been setting them up, even the Black immigrants, to pretty much replace us and make us bottom caste and make us the anchor of capitalism in this country, because that is what capitalism requires. But I digress. Asun, along with Prime, were very instrumental in sharing with me that I'm a freedman. I don't descend from anything. I am a freedman. That is the name that we are referred to in the Constitution. It's been legislated, and that I need to use that name because there's pride in being identified as a freedman. This happened after we were emancipated, and all of our justice claim is tied to freedmen. That if I want to use these other monikers, it's pretty much not been legislated. So we'd have to start all the way over akin to what we can do as freedmen, which is to file the necessary lawsuits to go and collect what's already on the books. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, it's very clear.
I hope so. That's my understanding. And that's why I identify now as freedmen, because it's on the books and we can just go and collect the checks. I just need to know where the yellow brick road is to go and do that. But to start all over with ADOS, ADOS, FBA, B1, that's not on the books. That's not how we're recognized. And to identify as freedmen is the golden ticket as soon as we can find the yellow brick road.
Well, I think tonight we're going to expose the yellow brick road. Are you ready for this?
I am ready. I was born ready.
Girl, the road is clear. The road is clear. And
What?
now we just need to follow it. I
Come
saw
on.
this and I said, follow the yellow brick road. I said, honey, we're going to follow the yellow brick road. You know, for those who don't know, the Freedmen Bureau Bank was created out of a bureau that was created through Lincoln and General Sherman. And, you know, I've talked about this in previous videos, but please look up General Sherman and Lincoln prior to his assassination wanted to really recognize the descendants of slaves that helped build and contribute towards America. Now, understand, when I hear people say Native Americans and Mexicans and Indians and all this other stuff, the Native Americans were already on this part of the continent, okay? The whites came, they call them savages, which they are not, but they did not acclimate to the actions and the laws of the Indians, right? The whites came in, the white colonists, and they created and they cultivated their own laws, their own rules, their own constitutions, okay? The Indians did not do that. They did that. Then they hired free labor, and that was us. We weren't hired. We were brought here as commoditized good trades and service. They also commoditized white people who were Irish. But when the Irish had children, those children were considered freedmen. They were free already, not freedmen, not what we're talking about. They were free humans. But we were still, if a black woman had a baby, that baby was the slave master's child. We never were freed until the emancipation or we had papers. And that's what Angela and I are discussing. Well, tonight we're going to talk about the yellow brick road. What does all this connection mean? Now, Angela has just solidified why she calls herself a freedman. And I support that. And I agree. We need to call ourselves freedmen. And we need to call ourselves Negroes. Because, you know, I'm always
that's
saying.
That's on my birth certificate. Negro is on my birth certificate.
Say it again, Angela.
Negro is how I'm identified on my birth certificate, as are my parents. They are called Negro on my original birth certificate.
Now, my parents are older than Angela's. My parents say color, but
Wow.
my birth certificate says Negro. So again, you need to find, and then if it says colored, how many times did they say colored in historical national papers? The colored people, the colored people. And they say, well, how do you know everybody's colored? No, your birth certificate does not call you colored, but mine's ancestors do. See,
but that's a golden ticket. When your birth certificate says that, when your birth certificate says colored or Negro, that's your golden ticket, and there's no mystery as to who we are. Because if you migrate over here and you're Black, your birth certificate will never say Negro or colored because you're a migrant. You migrated here. Your ancestors' lives did not give their lives to grow all the wealth that all the immigrants and whites eat from, you know?
Right.
So if your birth certificate doesn't say that, then it's clear that you don't descend from U.S. chattel slavery, and it's clear that you're not owed the reparations we are. As
and
descendants.
let me say this to you. And if my son's birth certificates don't say Negro or colored, but guess what? Mine's do. So
that
you might,
makes them entitled.
right. Our children birth certificates don't say that. Angela has a daughter and I have sons, and their birth certificates don't say it, but ours do. So that gives you credence, right?
And guess
So that's
who struck the word Chinese and Negro from everything? Barack Obama. Barack Obama struck the word Negro. And so please do believe that he did it in the name of people saying that they were offended by the term Negro on the census. But you can trust that there is a larger sleight of hand at play to strike the word Negro from everything constitutional. It disrupts our entire justice claim as they try and are pretty much succeeding in making us bottom caste in this country. When you erase Negro from the books, you erase our justice claim in part. And Obama did that.
That's true. And so there was a Chinese, I cannot think of her name because I did this video and I don't want to pivot too far, but there was a Chinese immigrant legislator who put that on the books under Obama's administration, and he signed it and approved it. So you are right on the money with that one.
But he's nefarious. You see, here you have a descendant of slave owners and an African who sold us into slavery. He descends from slave traders and he descends from slave owners. And so we got all excited without understanding that all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And this is a trick bag this government has been complicit in playing for a long while now. When they flatten blackness by calling us black or African American. No, Obama is African American. You and I are freedmen. And so before we even understood what was happening, we managed to elect him for 2 terms thinking that he is one of us. And this is why you got to do, as Yvette Carnell used to teach us, ask who you. You must ask who you, or else you'll sheepwalk to the polls and elect someone like Kamala Harris, who will come out on the yard at Howard University on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday to announce her run for presidency because she graduated from Howard and she can ski-wee all over the place. But the minute you put her into office, even prior to that, she's telling you she's not doing anything specific for you as a freedman. And that somehow class-based policies will somehow make us better, when we know trickle-down theory has never, ever worked. Okay? So for her to sit up here and say it, this is another nefarious sleight of hand akin to Obama. You get us all, not me, not you, but you get 87% of our electorate all excited that a black woman is going to be VP, and the minute she uses you for the vote, she gets in there and does for you exactly what she promised. Absolutely nothing. We've gotten from the Biden administration a Juneteenth festival that we were already celebrating and a hip hop festival in August. While he continues to enrich the Afghan refugees with $6.2 billion, he is about to settle with the illegals separated from their kids at the border, which is something they literally do on their own. They send their children over here so that they can get into the country, and then they piggyback on that. And now Biden is about to make them millionaires with our reparations, gave Afghan refugees $6.2 billion, gave Asians protection, enforced protections. They aren't the ones being executed by government state sanction. That's freedmen being executed, because the only people white folks execute are those who have been neutralized economically. And how have we been neutralized economically? Well, all of our reparations is being used on wars, to line the oligarch, the top 10% pockets, with a current day pandemic. We all know this vaccine was paid $50 million plus to be created in a Wuhan, China lab. Okay. And now these vaccine mandates are pretty much neutralizing us and guaranteeing that freedmen become the permanent anchor of the country's capitalism, while giving away our reparations during a pandemic, giving away our reparations to refugees, and just putting the squeeze on us. Now they're coming for the vote. So I just said all that to say that Obama, this Chinese woman brought it. Of course she would. Well, why is that? Well, you look out here at California politics, who, along with Freedman Ward Connerly, undermined our affirmative action. Okay, those were Asians who stopped Prop 16 after Ward Connerly back in, I think it was 96, got 209 passed to pretty much take away affirmative action, talking about its reverse discrimination to give us quotas, when we know this country has never played fair when it came to giving freedmen access to what they killed and stole from us. And so, yes, this Chinese woman is complicit in getting, I don't know if she got Chinese removed or Oriental or some kind of way that
was the word Oriental. Yeah,
okay.
And then she tied it in. We don't want to be called Negro and they don't want to be called Oriental.
Right, but nobody checked in with us for that. But
nobody checked in with us on that. And I blame congressional black leaders for that. You had all these congressional black leaders who were in Congress who's supposed to have our back. See, this is the problem with black people. You've got Maxine Waters. You've got all these people who've been in office since Jesus was born, and they are destroying, distorting, and disrupting and basically grinding up and putting in fires all of our history. And the leaders that run this country who are black don't even fight for us. Now, what's that about?
That's about getting paid just enough butter biscuits to sell out your fellow freedmen because you and your line will be okay. And to hell with the rest of us. They are complicit in the plans that are a couple of 100 years old to weaponize immigration against us, to extinct us to as few in number as the Indians. And it's working. There's the war on drugs, the war on poverty. They don't even have to lynch us anymore. They just starve our communities of resources and gentrify us out with black on black crime and murder and state sanctioned executions. They establish preschool to prison pipelines, and they take the public school dollars and they put them into the white neighborhoods to give the white children a private school education with public school dollars. They set up the preschool to prison pipeline that way for us. They stuff our children into foster care, take our kids from us. You can no longer, give your kid a lashing without them being instructed by white and immigrant teachers, because they fired and laid off all of the freedmen teachers who were like our surrogate parents, especially for those parents who had fallen on hard times and were too poor to supply breakfast and lunch for their kids or clothes or proper books or whatever the surrogate parent as the freedman teacher would provide. Now they've removed them from the classroom, and the white and the immigrant teachers are teaching our children to turn against us. The minute you try to whip them or, to admonish them in the way that we grew up, okay, spare the rod, spoil the child, our parents used the rod and got us together. Well, we have been denied the right to use the rod, and these kids have been instructed to call CPS and the cops on the parents. And so they take the kids.
Go ahead, finish your thought. They take
the children from the parents. These children end up growing up in the foster care system. Then they become rogue out of a survival instinct, and then the cops can warrant and justify executing them by state sanction, Black unarmed men, women, and children in these communities that they intend gentrification for. So it's all by design of institutional systemic racism. But go ahead, Shirley. I'll take a breath. It's your show.
Oh no, I love it. When you start, I can't even cut you off because you have so much insight of the reality of where we are as the people. But you remember tonight is following the getting the tickets, right? We said the golden tickets, right?
Yeah.
Because if you get as many golden tickets and you lay them on the table, eventually someone's got to listen. But there's not enough of us laying golden tickets. What are golden tickets? The big golden ticket is, what did you say? The Freedmen Bureau and genealogy, because they are trying to get rid of us. And Big Mad said it all, and you said it too. Shout out to Big Mad, to King. I always want to say a couple of shout outs to some people who just always come on the show. And bless me, 007, I saw you. King is coming. He's out there. D's always got my backs. Max is out there. And Mr. J may come in. He said he's just going to lay low, and I appreciate that. But I do appreciate all you guys' support. So we've identified and we've established just to you the tragedy of our people. We've identified and established to you to do your homework and expand on the knowledge that we're sharing. We're asking that you share, like, and put the thumbs up on this video so that other people will be notified about how to understand that they are not an ADOS anymore. They are a Freedmen Bureau family. There's a Freedmen Bureau family collection that is now being put together and started. And we are joining those collections. And we also identified that we are Negro and colored people. And now once you identify what tribes that you're part of, what groups you are part of in that, then you can expand that. But we're going to start with the knowledge of understanding Freedmen Bureau. And I'm going to stop and roll and share that history with you. It's a little video. There's 3 videos that we're going to watch. We're going to learn about William Sherman, who was a general under Lincoln, who set some of the guidelines that we should have gotten, which we didn't. And what we got instead of the Freedmen Bureau guidelines, they changed that once Lincoln was assassinated and said, let's give them a bank. And that's what they gave us. They gave us the Freedmen Bureau Bank. They did not give us a bureau of land and opportunity. They took it away from us once Lincoln was killed. And then once they took that land and they took the regulations of that land away from us, they gave us the bank. And so Black people said, okay, you want to give us a bank? We'll take our money, put it together, and see the process. Well, let's watch this video. And I want to get your opinion of, share. I want to get your opinion. And I'm going to get Angela's opinion. And I'll stop and go throughout the duration of the video. So let's watch it.
In that agrarian economy, you're just labor. Land is capital. So to gain money and wealth and to have freedom, you have to have land.
I made $1 bed, luck is all I've had.
At the end of the war, President Abraham Lincoln had promised the freedmen 40 acres of land per family. But those promises died with Lincoln's assassination.
Instead of 40 acres and a mule, they got the Freedmen's Bank. So instead of land, they were given a bank.
Union soldiers were getting bonuses. So the idea was to create a way to encourage the men to save the money so they wouldn't go squander it or be defrauded out of the money.
It was sold to the freedmen as better than giving you the land. You will earn the money through wages and you will save it and you'll buy your own land and you'll feel better about that. Never mind that hundreds of years of working the land didn't count for earning the land.
The Freedmen's Bank was privately held, owned, and managed by wealthy white men. But the bank's aggressive marketing conveyed a different impression to its Black depositors.
The passbooks, the notes, all featured, the heroes. It was Abraham Lincoln, it was General Grant, Howard. It was very targeted. So people were saying, these are the men who freed us. And they're saying, come to this bank.
In freedom, some skilled African Americans saved their hard-earned capital at the Freedmen's Bank and went into business for themselves. For some Black business people, personal services were the clearest path to success, and sometimes wealth.
They recognized that their ability to have a particular kind of skill set, which was something that the white population needed, allowed them a certain kind of mobility and freedom.
Many of them were able to cash in on expectations that they were replicating their servant roles where whites were in power and African Americans were serving them. For example, a number of Black barbers continued to keep their exclusively white clientele after the war.
All these barbers spent that time in the barbershop, nurturing these relationships with white men, and used that money from the barbershop to help fund and to help fuel a Black economic movement within their own communities.
From barbershops to grocery stores, Black businesses relied on the Freedmen's Bank. But a decade after it was founded, Bank President Henry Cook was running the Freedmen's Bank into the ground.
Here was Cook saying, look at all this money. They're putting their money in my bank, and whenever I need it, I'm going to reach in and get it.
Henry Cook starts looting the bank. He just starts taking this money and lending it or giving.
Okay, now, they said Henry Cook. Now, they already got the names of the thieves and their generational thief children. And have we done anything yet? I'm pausing in between the video. It's been 3 minutes. Angela, what's your thoughts so far?
Oh, so far, you just get to see the sleight of hand all over again. Like we've just been screwed one time after another. You know, even from the beginning when they were talking about, you know, who won the war and how they're putting out all these white faces, when in fact it was the Black Union soldiers that descended from slavery. You know, they pretty much fled to the Union camps, you know, 500 strong to demand their freedom. And they joined the Civil War to, you know, fight for the emancipation. And so it already starts, you know, the lies just start spinning from the gate with even who actually won the war. It was our freedmen that won that war, that beat the Confederates. Okay. Yeah. So off the gate, it starts to lie. And then, of course, you know, you give us this bank, but you take away the land. And now, like, it looks like Mercer Baradaran. Is that who that is narrating? That looks like her. But anyway, the bottom line is she's absolutely right. You sit up here and you have us put our money in this bank. And to my understanding, we had amassed $57 million that these white folks were left in charge of to pillage it.
Okay, stop. Hold your thought. Keep watching the video. Keep watching.
Here was Cook saying, look at all this money. They're putting their money in my bank, and whenever I need it, I'm going to reach in and get it.
Henry Cook starts looting the bank. He just starts taking this money and lending it or giving it to some friends and acquaintances, just putting the capital into railroad bonds, which was the subprime market of the day.
With the Freedmen's Bank on the verge of collapse, the federal government turned to the best-known African-American leader in the country to salvage it.
Congress brought in Frederick Douglass to serve as the new president of the Freedmen's Bank. Initially, he invested $10,000 of his own money as a way to shore up the bank, as well as to encourage other African Americans to continue to deposit their money into the bank. But the bank was beyond saving. So Douglass had to go to Congress and say that the bank was bankrupt and it needed to close.
The fact is, I was married to a corpse. I found that I had been placed there with the hope that by some drugs or some mighty magic, I would bring it back. But the life, which was the money, was gone.
The hard-earned savings of the freedmen were lost just in the markets, just poof. And nobody gets prosecuted.
Nobody gets prosecuted.
That's right.
This was a bank created by Congress. Hello, Congress. Yeah. Don't you feel that you had some accountability to this? This wasn't created by freedmen people. This was not created by the private entity groups. This was created by the federal government.
That's right.
Now let that sink into your souls a little bit. This was a bank created by Congress who planted these thieves in position of control over the Negroes' money. Why didn't they put Frederick Douglass from the beginning? Why didn't they put, there were a lot of West Sojourner Truth during that time. There were a lot of blacks during Frederick Douglass' time that could have intervened and been on the board. They could have put blacks on that board, but they don't. They put white people who said, these Negroes, they saw that profitability of that bank. And instead of saying, this is amazing, oh, these niggas are getting too wealthy. We were 55% of the population, Negroes. Now look at you. In California, you're down to 3 to 4%.
And nationwide around 12.
In meantime, you're becoming leveraged against financially. I did that video previously with the Latinos, and I'll do more with other cultures. But I had to come back to the Negroes and the colored people and the Freedmen Bureau, because the Freedmen Bureau was not supposed to be a bank, but it became a bank, and we put millions of dollars, which is worth trillions of dollars today, that was distributed among other white people in this country, who that is how their wealth was built on, the backs and the efforts of blacks in this country. Go ahead, Angela.
Oh yes, and every time we pulled ourselves up by our bootless straps, here they come lynching and legislating us all the way to the bottom as the anchor of the Titanic. Every time we worked and did everything we were supposed to, got the education, built the Black Wall Streets, about 50 throughout the country, they came right on through and helped themselves to make sure they would keep that metaphorical oppressive boot on our neck. And this is why nationally, our people are worth about $30,000. And with the median home price of around $380,000, and the reparations, being spent on all these groups to guarantee that this pandemic wipes us completely off the monopoly board. It's all working by design.
Let's keep going, Angela. Hold on.
Okay. This was white collar crime, actual just crime. It was theft, and nobody goes to prison for it.
Not even 10 additional years of slavery could have done so much to throttle the thrift of the freedmen as the mismanagement and bankruptcy of the series of savings banks chartered by the nation for their special aid.
From 1865 to 1874, about 70,000 people deposited the equivalent of $1.3 billion in modern day numbers. So African Americans enthusiastically embraced the Freedmen's Bank. It was a deep loss for African Americans and a loss of a vast amount of Black wealth.
Soon after the collapse of the bank, the federal government withdrew from the South, returning control of the region to former slave owners.
Okay, let me tell you something. That was the beginning of what was the 100-year lynch laws? Because see, when Lincoln died, before Lincoln died, he had set the troops, the Union troops, into the South to stop all the killing, the lynching, and all the blacks who were enslaved. And so the troops were there to get the farmers and the landowners at that time to understand there is new congressional laws and a new constitution. There's a new, the Civil War had created this new America. We have the daughters of the Revolutionary Wars and the daughters and sons of the Civil War of 1 and 2. So the Civil War, these are children of the Civil War. It created a new type of civil society where we were supposed to be able to have land and be part of it. I hope I'm not going too fast again. Rewind this video, pause it, and just give that some thought, because I got so much to share. I just want to keep going. So when the troops pulled out of the South, they abandoned us. I forgot what they call that. It starts with a C. Somebody put it in the chat room. There was a certain word they called it. Part of history. It was, if you look up 1817, they pulled the troops, I think it was 1817, they pulled the troops out of the South. No. It was maybe 1917. Anyway, they pulled the troops out of the South. When they did that, that's when the lynchings started. So now they stole our money, and then we reverted back to being lynched and hunted down like animals that you could not even imagine with no money.
Aim of full citizenship for African Americans came to a screeching halt.
We see the end of efforts to educate formerly enslaved people. We see the end of the protection of the right to vote. And what is allowed to happen is a series of legislative and extra-legal attempts to suppress African-American freedom. Any land that was able to be secured is also violently retaken. And so what you see is a reassertion of that racial hierarchy in the South that had the white landowners at the top and Black labor at the bottom.
Wow. Angela, I got to hear from you. What's your thought? What you feeling?
Oh, Lord. It's just a lot. Like, I'm feeling like you're putting together the yellow brick road with our golden tickets. This information proves to me that this study is BS. It's another money grab by the Congress. That HR 40, they want $12 million to study what's already right in front of us. I mean, this video alone says so much. And to me, it's just a matter of crunching the numbers. You know, Thomas Kramer crunched the number from 1776 when the country was formed through our emancipation at 2 cents per hour, compounded at 6%. That's how he came up with 6.2 quadrillion on the very low end. So when you add in, Jim Crow and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage, you're talking about being paid generationally into perpetuity. And the challenge is that the puckery continues, like they don't let up. They continue to use us, the Democrats, continue to use our people since FDR for the vote. And then when we, as the Reparationist movement, tell them to weaponize the vote, they refuse to do it. But guess who don't refuse to weaponize the vote? The Latinos. The Latinx community, as long as they're under 50K, will vote the lines of the Democrats in order to get legal status here. The minute they get legal status and start to earn 50K per year, they switch to the Republican ticket. And so this is why you see the Biden administration working feverishly to get all of these illegals, to flood the country with refugees and illegals. Because just like they're trying to get these illegals licensed, and just like these illegals are, able to go to the Ivy League colleges and the whole 9 yards, you're looking at the illegals that they're going to try to force to get the Voting Rights Act for. Or you're going to see them do a fast track to legalizing them in order that they may vote. Because these are the votes they need to stay relevant for the next few cycles in terms of the election cycle. Because Black folks have awakened, and you can see the numbers trending towards the I call them Republicans. I don't like either party. But I do understand that we've got to weaponize the vote. We've got to play chess with the vote because our blues is not like the Latinx blues. We can't do it that way. When they have neutralized us economically, we must vote mixed politics. We must, for me, the perfect arrangement for our vote is a red top and a blue Congress until we can replace the lanes in office with full-chested cash reparationists. We've got to protect the over 50% of freedmen who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism. We've got to get beyond the Republican notion that we can pull ourselves up by our bootless straps when they have severely stacked the deck against us economically. It's very difficult with a median national income to pull yourself up by your bootless straps when you are working 2 and 3 gig jobs. Why? Because affirmative action gives the jobs to white women, immigrants, and LGBTQIA. We can't get work, and when we do, they're least paid in these positions. So when you're talking a median national income of $30,000, along with a median national home price of close to $400,000, how can you pull yourself up by your bootless straps to go in business for yourself? With what? And don't add the fact that you may have a couple of kids to feed, and the fact that you may be doing it as a single mother, and the fact that you desire them to be educated, and you desire to live in a more pristine neighborhood that they've redlined you right out of. That is the plight of the freedmen right now. So, for me, it's a red top and a blue Congress until they cut these checks and give us the land back, like they recently did with Bruce's Beach. Bruce's Beach the Bruce family had to go into damn near destitution before they got their land back 100 years later, and now the land is worth $79 million. We're not even talking about the homes that are multiple millions of dollars, but they are owed 100 years of deprivation from not being able to use those lands to grow generational inheritable wealth. That's what white folks took from them by eminent domain. That's what they've done all over the country. And that is the fight. Cash and land. Keep your programs that you give with the right and take with the left. Keep your programs. We don't need that. Give us cash in the quadrillions or whatever the number ends up being. We can negotiate from the full cash value of the damages of slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage. Let's figure out what that math is and then work from the top, the tippy top. You see, I am a negotiator by trade. I don't negotiate from the clearance rack when I am negotiating on behalf of my clients. That's not what they pay me to do. They pay me to know the full value of what they are owed. And then they pay me to go to court to fight for full cash value, and then at least get at least 75% of what they're owed from big insurance. And I don't expect anything different of my reparations. You're not going to close an over $100 trillion racial wealth gap with $12 trillion. It's not going to happen, and there's no fire sale on this reparations for me. I'm trying to set up our lineage to not just survive, but thrive. So let's crunch the numbers like Thomas Kramer did and assess the full value of the damages and start negotiations from the full value of the damages. I'll take a breath.
And how are we able to know what those full damages are? We want golden tickets. I need that from you.
Well, that's what Thomas Kramer did. He just got his calculator out. He decided, which listen, I believe we should calculate all the way back to 1619 when Angela, along with 19 other slaves, were the first slaves allegedly to hit the shores. Okay? But, people say that before the country was formed is Africa and Europe's debt. So, this is where Thomas started. He just decided to start with the formation of the country. He calculated our slave, he calculated the hours we worked as slaves, which was pretty much round the clock. We barely got any rest. Our ancestors, rather. God bless them. But yeah, he did it at 2 cents per hour at a 6% compounded interest just from 1776 to 1865. He came up with 6.2 quadrillion. Now, let's talk about what we lost in terms of the land. That's just a simple math calculation as well. Let's talk about what we lost after Reconstruction. Let's talk about the Black Wall Streets they burned down all over the country. Let's talk about peonage. Let's talk about debtor's prison. Let's talk about sharecropping. Let's just crunch each of these atrocities that are baked into our existing Holocaust and get a number going. Add the numbers up, multiply, and say, okay, this is reasonably what you owe for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage. That's still ongoing. Now, you'll be able to maybe stop these payments when you stop oppressing the freedmen whose ancestors built the wealth you eat from, that you killed and stole with their lives. So until then, you will be paying us akin to how you pay the Jews into perpetuity. And you don't have to stroke a check for quadrillions of dollars today. We will take monthly installments in direct deposits akin to what you did with the pandemic money, which is our reparations. That, oh, by the way, you've given all this money to the states and it hasn't trickled down to blacks, to freedmen blacks, not black immigrants. I'm talking about freedmen.
We're talking about freedmen.
Okay, because down here in LA, per the 2014 Color Wealth LA report, at the time, Nigerians were 300 times more liquid than freedmen. At the time, they were 60,000 liquid to our 200. So this ain't got nothing, my reparations fight has nothing to do with black immigrants. I don't give a damn that you suffered Jim Crow. This is something you chose to migrate into. You chose to leave your country's Holocaust to come in here and build on the backs of those of us who are still fighting for our freedom from ours. So, as far as I'm concerned, we are your reparations. That goes for all the immigrants. We are your reparations. Don't have your hands out for shit. Excuse me.
No, I'm absolutely feeling you. So I believe that you said you already have some type of calculation of numbers that you're working from. But I'm going to play the advocate of being a descendant of white colonists because my grandmother's half white. And as those who are descendants of slaves, you know, they filtered and dipped into our pond. And this is why we have all these different European diaspora in our DNA. And I'm going to tell you, when you're dealing with white America, they're going to ask you, where's the data? Where's the data? It's already there. But we have to go with a proposal, my people. We have to not only give a hypothetic, we don't need to do hypothetics. We have factual documents. We have clarified on the show, the beginning of the show, what Angela and I have set presence for you to understand. You are part of the Freedmen people. There is a Freedmen Bureau collective notion and truth that we're teaching you of people that were called slaves and Negroes and Black. But when you talk about identifying and knowing on record what you are, that they're constantly finding ways through erasing, you should relate and connect back through your genealogy. Like I've said before, you need to look at your tree line. You're on the bottom. Then you have your mom and your dad. These are white people. That might not be you, but you get the point. You're on the bottom. Then you have your mom and your dad, and your mom and your dad have their mom and dad, right? So those are four different names. Your parents' names. I should have picked another one where it took the top line and split it into twos. And that means you got two on one side and two on one side. Those are your four last names. Those last names connect to history and a lot of things that you guys don't know who you are. Many of you people don't even know who your name is. Real quick, I got to promote my sponsor. God bless Cal Texas Homes. Cal Texas Homes is out there to help you relocate. Many of you don't realize that African Americans in this country are doing a reverse migration. They are getting out of urban communities like New York and California and parts of Arizona and Las Vegas, and they're moving back to the South. If you want an opportunity to learn about how and what your property is worth, make sure you contact Cal Texas Homes, because they are making a difference in our people. Many times, a lot of you guys don't realize you need to move. You are losing money. California gas is at $7 a gallon, and we have a president right now just allocating more money to push our people out on the street. So please, when you have a chance, go to Cal Texas Homes. All right, Angela, I want to go into another part of a video I want to get your opinion and your perspective on. You've laid the groundwork. Now I want to give you the connecting of the dots. We need to have data to move forward. We need to have information to connect to wealth, because we need money and we need land. Everybody's talking about money, but we need money and we need land. And now that connects back to the Freedmen Bureau, to the slaves, and how we were treated, and how they utilized us, took our monies from the bank and put it in their pockets. And we just saw a video that identified the thieves, and it really is Congress, because Congress, the ones that these representatives of these states at that time made a conscious decision that they said, hey, we're going to create a bank for you Negroes, and then we're going to take it away from you. And we're going to have a thief. We're going to make it so that we're going to steal it from you. Now that you've identified that, I want you to understand where we're going as of today. Let me put this video up real quick. And I want to get you to hear I'm so excited to share this with you, because I really want you guys to capture everything that we're saying so that you can understand who you are, and that you are about to learn how to hit your own jackpot. And I'm going to teach you tonight how to understand what kind of Negro you are. Here we go.
In 1865, Congress passed an act to establish the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands. The intention of this act was to help provide food, medical care, shelter, land, and more to newly freed African Americans. The details in these records are incredible and provide a huge opportunity to learn more about ancestors that were previously enslaved, as well as about their early lives right after emancipation. To help support the usefulness of these important records, Ancestry is unveiling a collection of Freedmen's Bureau and Freedmen's Bank records totaling more than 3.5 million records available to everyone for free.
Angela, did you hear that?
Girl, I heard it. That's powerful right there. It's
family, y'all. I want to see some applause in the chat room. Let me rewind this. I don't think people know how deep that is. Listen to the numbers, Angela. Hold on.
Bureau and Freedmen's Bank records totaling more than 3.5 million records available to everyone for free.
Hold on. I screwed up.
The four most important records in this collection are labor contracts, lists, letters, and marriages.
1 second. I'm so excited about this. Now I'm pushing buttons on my computer. I'm so excited about this because this is really going to change the dynamics of us having access to tools, right? Because we need to be able to connect the dots. That's been the biggest problem. Like, well, okay, so you know about the Freedmen Bureau. Did you guys may have not known your family members that might have put $100,000 into this damn bank and they were stolen from you. And your family's suffering right now. You don't even know it.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
That's what was happening to the Bruce family. They had destitute after the Bruces built, an empire on Manhattan Beach. Okay. And then it was taken from them. I think they ultimately got $14,000 for it. But you're talking 100 years ago. And they had to become dishwashers, I think, or something like that in a kitchen after owning prime real estate that was taken from them by eminent domain for a park that didn't come for 20 years until later. So, yeah, this is rich. I mean, the bottom line is, it's no mystery to the people who stole it. It's no mystery who we are to the government. But like Ted Hayes, civil rights leader and homeless advocate down here in California, often shared with me, Angela, this is, y'all going over the river and through the woods. White folks is just waiting on y'all to figure out that your reparations is already written. It's just time for y'all to go up in there and collect. But I don't know how to go in there and collect.
Well, we got tools now. Now listen.
Available to everyone for free.
I don't know why it does that. Sorry about that.
The 4 most important records in this collection are labor contracts.
Okay. Now, you know what? While I'm fixing this video, she said something pertinent too. When you talk about labor contracts, and you remember, look how they're giving all these illegal immigrants all the labor contracts. We had those contracts before. We had the contracts, and they would tell you, y'all didn't have them contracts. Yes, we did have those contracts.
Oh,
we had those contracts.
I mean, first of all, if we were half of the population, who else was doing the work? White folks didn't know how to do the work. That's why they killed and stole it, because that's what they know how to do. They weren't working the land. We knew how to farm.
Labor contracts, lists, letters, and marriages. Labor contracts are so helpful when researching the Freedmen's Bureau because you get incredible things like who owned the land or who was leasing the land and who was working the land and the rate at which they were being compensated and paid. The lists within the Freedmen's Bureau are absolutely astounding. You can find things like people who are literally 100 years old getting rations in the year 1866. If you do the math, those individuals were born before the founding of the United States. Letters are incredibly helpful when searching the Freedmen's Bureau because a large number of people were not able to read and write. They relied on the Bureau's officials to write letters on their behalf. It could be for things like maybe handling disputes with people that they were in labor contracts with, or maybe requesting that someone would marry them, or even potentially to help locate other family members they had been separated from during the time of enslavement. Marriages within the Freedmen's Bureau can help you collect a lot of valuable information on your ancestors. They include the name of the bride and the groom, along with the person who solemnized the marriage, and they can include additional information such as the number of years the couple had been living together prior to them being married by the Freedmen's Bureau, as well as where the marriage took place, which could be the place that the couple may have been formerly enslaved. The details in these records can potentially lead to key breakthroughs. It can also create leads to find a former slaveholder, and it also can provide a new perspective on their lives right after emancipation.
Wow. Wow. Angela, talk to me. Talk to me, girl.
Well, it's just super rich. Like I said, I love the fact that she used the word refugees, because that word is truly, it's on the books, and that entitles us to a lot of what these other refugees are getting with respect to being resettled here. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that we can pursue. We need more hands in the fight, but there literally needs to be 3 different fights going on for Freedmen right now. One for the long-term goal of the full cash value of our reparations. That's one. The other fight needs to be, the Freedmen fight for the things that we got during Reconstruction that was taken away after Lincoln was assassinated. And the other fight is everything that's entitled, refugee. Every entitlement refugees receive, we need to attach ourselves to, because you heard her use that name. You heard her use the word. So we've got 3 ways to get paid. I just need to know.
And let me clarify some things. And some people say, well, we don't want reparations. Reparations is a broad word and a broad term. We want monies allocated and land allocated by law, which we should be entitled to. This isn't something like, well, we were refugees and we come here. No. These are laws and things that are already on the book. You guys are going to have to do your homework on your life. Right now, if you go to, let me show you real quick. Right now, if you go to, let me get that link. Where we're at. I want you need to make a decision. If you want to know more about the Freedmen Bureau, you need to know your own history. So you have to make a decision first. There's steps that we need to take. And the first step that you have to take, and then some people want to do it and some people don't. So you need to go to Ancestry.com. And what you can do is, there's two parts of Ancestry.com. You can do the genealogy, which sets the tree up, which I showed you the tree. I've done the genealogy. And then they'll connect you with people who are like you through the genealogy, the mother's last name, the grandmother's last names, the records, the military records, the death certificates, the birth certificates. They've got address books in there. And then they have the census bureaus and the census bureaus. And then you based it on the date all the way up to the emancipation. When you know you have a family member born before the emancipation and you've got legal documents, which you saw that lady have in that video, then most likely you are a descendant or you have a line of descendant of slaves. And there are white people who are also descendants of slaves, because many white people were passing at that time. And blacks were passing. A lot of white people don't even know that they have DNA. But the DNA will allow them to go deeper. And right now with Black Friday coming up in this month, right now they've got specials where you can get these kits. You can get Ancestry.com, the DNA kit, and then you can do the DNA match kit where they match you. And that's for 3 months. And then they give you 3 months access to work on your genealogy. Or what they do is they'll do your DNA, they'll do your personal traits, and then they'll do 3 months here. Now, what is traits? Because I had to look that one up myself. It really is something like, it has to do with, oh, I already had this up. I'm sorry. I don't know what that one is. It has to do with someone like you. Oh, here it is. Understanding the trait theory. Okay, their theory is that some of us have instincts that are inherited. That you have some family members like, God, you're a leader. No, here's a better one. Oh, your dad's an actor. Oh, you're like Drew Barrymore. Her grandfather played Potter in the Christmas Story. Christmas Story is a Wonderful Life. The gentleman who played the grandfather, who played the bad guy, Potter, and not Harry Potter, but Potter Town and all of that. Those who remember the story, this is an old story. Her grandfather, I think it was her grandfather, that's Drew Barrymore, the actress, the little girl who played in E.T. Was it E.T.? And she's also done so many movies. She's got her own talk show now. That's her grandfather. Now people would say, well, gosh, she's an actress and he's an actress. I think her father or her mother was an actress, and then her grandfather was an actress. They would say those are her traits, right? The theory of a leadership trait. Some of you guys don't realize you go back to greatness. Your ancestors could be kings or queens. Your ancestor could be someone that built and contributed to America, and you don't even know it. I'm gonna give you an example. Here's a story from Pharrell. Listen.
Buzzing.
I'm gonna play part of this.
Like my body is buzzing. Like, whoa. We took musician Pharrell Williams on an extraordinary journey, all thanks to one single document. The story begins with his great-great-grandfather, a man named Frederick Williams. Fenner died in 1927, but his sister, Jane Arrington, lived into the late 1930s. And near the end of Jane's life, she was interviewed about her experiences under slavery, allowing Pharrell opportunity to read the actual words of one of his own relatives who had endured bondage, something very few African Americans are ever able to do. I was born on the 18th of December, 1852. I was born on the plantation near Tar River. My mother was named Louisa May, and my father was named Louis May. My mother had 6 children, 4 boys and 2 girls. The boys were Richard,
Pharaoh, Caesar, and Finner. The girls, Rose and Jane. Jane, that's me.
Well, that is your great-great-grandfather's sister. And she is your great-great-great-aunt.
Crazy.
Jane Arrington was interviewed as part of what's known as the Slave Narrative Project, a collective oral history comprised of roughly 2,300 interviews with formerly enslaved people. The project was sponsored by the federal government in the 1930s.
Oh, I've got the pause right there. Did you guys hear that? Did you hear that?
What?
That project was funded by the federal government. Go ahead, Angela.
Which project?
This project that they're mentioning right here. There was a project set by the federal government that allowed, I think he said 2,800. Let me put this back up again. I hope you guys are paying attention to this. This is what I mean by you need to do your own genealogy, because your parents, your great-great-great ancestors might be documented right now in a documentary, and you don't even know it. And this is because Ancestry.com has all this information, and I want you to be able to hear this again. So let me play it again.
Crazy.
Jane Arrington was interviewed as part of what's known as the Slave Narrative Project.
The Slave Narrative Project. Write that down. Somebody put that in the chat room. Put that down in the chat room, somebody. The Slave Narrative.
I have that link. You can hear slaves over 100 years old recording what happened to them in their own voices. It's powerful.
Let's keep going.
A collective oral history comprised of roughly 2,300 interviews with former
2,300
former slaves. Those are former slaves in their original voices.
Yeah. You might have an ancestor. You don't need girl. This is powerful. Anybody say yes? Is this powerful, family? Now, are some of you moms out there, Eric Blackfire and D, if you have a chance, can you look this up and put this in the chat room so people know that they might have some ancestors that they need to look up? Let's keep playing it.
You can hear their voices.
Project was sponsored by the federal government in the 1930s.
Wow.
James gave Pharrell an intimate glimpse of his ancestors' experience under slavery. Those words also forced him to confront the cruel reality of what those ancestors actually experienced. And the realizations concerning his great-great-grandfather Fenner would strike Pharrell particularly hard. So we estimate that Fenner was born between 1855 and 1857. Okay, we're pretty sure about that. So you know what that means. That means that he was most likely born into slavery and not freed until the end of the Civil War.
Wow, at 10 years old.
The first 10 years of his life would have been spent in slavery.
Wow.
You know, we tend to think of it as adults, but think about a little boy.
I don't want to cry, and I'm trying not to be angry.
You're not a machine. This is horrendous. What else can you feel? It's horrible.
It's intense, sir. It's intense.
Pharrell's ancestors likely suffered more than he can even imagine. In her interview, Jane recalled minute details about their daily lives on a cotton plantation, revealing the degradation they endured every day.
Yeah.
We lived in log houses with stick and dirt, chimneys. They called them the slave houses. I worked on the farm, cutting corn stalks and tending to cattle in slavery time. Sometimes I swept the yards. After working all day, there was a task of cotton to be picked and spun by them. What kind of people? what kind of people. It puts a very vivid, intense context behind what it means to be African American. And I thank God that I got to hear it. But I'm so sorry they went through this.
Yeah.
Oh, nobody should have gone through this. It's a lot, man. Oh, I have to say I'm forever changed.
Yeah.
Retrieving lost story.
He said, I'm forever changed. Angela, this is going to be a year of being forever changed. Family, this video is so important. Please make sure you like and click the like buttons. We've got a good amount of people. I've got 2 platforms. We got over 50 people watching. This is amazing. It's amazing for me because I'm up late at night. And we really want to get this word out. There's a new way to track yourself. You need to know your DNA, your genealogy, and understand the slave master's name is your last name. That's why you don't know what you come from. Your slave masters, your ancestors' slaves, when they were freed, they took on the last name. And the blacks who were already freed, not under slavery, called themselves freedmen. They called themselves freedmen. And so they created the Freedmen Bureau. The Freedmen Bureau was a bureau conducted by William Sherman. And what happened was we found out through William Sherman that we didn't get what was entitled to us. I just want to play a little bit of that piece of history so that you guys understand. Before the bank, we're not talking about just bank money. We're talking about land too.
On January 16th, 1865, Union General William T. Sherman issued Special Field Order Number 15, which confiscated as federal property a strip of coastal land extending about 30 miles inland from the Atlantic and stretching from Charleston, South Carolina, 245 miles south to Jacksonville, Florida. The order gave most of the roughly 400,000 acres to newly emancipated slaves in 40-acre sections. Those lands became the basis for the slogan, 40 acres and a mule, based on the belief that ex-slaves throughout the old Confederacy would be given the confiscated lands of former plantation owners. The order appears below. The islands from Charleston, south, the abandoned rice fields along the rivers for 30 miles back from the sea, and the country bordering the St. Johns River, Florida, are reserved and set apart for the settlement of the Negroes now made free by the acts of war and the proclamation of the President of the United States.
Now, let me tell you how powerful this is. It says this order appears below. This was a special order that was written, and these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not going to go and do this because this is another video, but I need you to do your homework on Special Order Number 15. And see, after Lincoln died, and they said, look what these Negroes have done. We're going to award them a special order, which is basically what we call today executive order. That was a special order. We call it today executive order. Lincoln never got to sign. He never got to sign that executive order. And he started off not talking about money, not talking about a bank. He started off talking about land in Charleston. And you know, the Gullah people, look up the Gullah people. Y'all remember, now I'm dating myself because my ass is older than most of y'all listening to me. My kids used to watch Gullah Island. Gullah, Gullah Island. Gullah, Gullah. You remember that, right? Well, there's a Gullah people. And those are original Black people in South Carolina. And those white developers have taken the land and recently took more of their land. See, these are things that we need to compile in our golden tickets, because we got to put our tickets together, people, to present our case before the king, or whoever the king is at the time. And that could be the judge, that could be the president, that could be congressional leaders, whoever that is. We want to let you know our golden tickets and how we have acquired them and what you've done to us. Because South Carolina Island, which is, if you look up the Gullah people, look up Gullah. There's a whole video talking about how those white people have now used those developments, planted their buildings on top of the graves of slaves to expand their capitalism. Now you do your homework on that and see if your stomach doesn't turn. Let me keep going. Talked about the rice fields. My family's from Louisiana and Arkansas. And them folks love them some rice. That's why we as Black people, we talk about rice fields because it relates back to Africa. That's a whole nother video I might do, but we'll keep going. Talks about Florida, excuse me. Then they go in and they go further into the things that we were supposed to obtain under this special order, which what would be called today an executive order. Am I losing you, or does anybody hear me? Angela, what's your thoughts, sister?
No, you're spot on in everything that you're sharing. It is just rich and it's powerful, and it's just time to get into action on this. We need to move on this. We can't wait eons to be repaired. We don't have that kind of time, going from 50% of the country to now less than 13%. And, more of the country being flooded by immigrants. So, no, I'm following you every step of the way.
Now, listen, the Civil War, this is after the Civil War. Remember, there's the Revolutionary War, which established us away from the Queen. We are children of the Queen. So I said, a lot of Blacks, DNA, when you do DNA or your genealogy dates back to England. Mine date back to England and Ireland. Remember, the Irish people were slaves in America. I have that DNA in me. And then I have the English slave because a lot of these Englands, the colonist people, the original colonist people came from England and other parts of Europe. Now, this is right after the Civil War, because even though they had America, they weren't civil. They found it inhumane of the actions of how we are building this country. We had two different perspectives. We had those who are of the Union, and then you have those who are of the South, right? So anyway, the Black people, the Negroes, remember, me and Angela set the presence for you to understand. You are a Negro. Look at your birth certificate. If it doesn't say that, look at your mother's. If Sheriff doesn't say that, keep going. Look at your grandmother's. Because by the time you get in, I would say the 20s and the 30s, they may say color. When you get back into 1960, 1970, it might say Negro. 1950, it might say Negro. So the Negroes who are listening in, this was an executive order that never got implemented or executed. And look what Black people were supposed to get. I've been leaving it up there. I know y'all done probably read it, but here we go.
Whenever a Negro has enlisted in the military service of the United States, he may locate his family in any one of the settlements at pleasure and acquire a homestead and all other rights and privileges of a settler as though present in person. In like manner, Negroes may settle their families and engage on board the gunboats, or in fishing, or in the navigation of the inland waters, without losing any claim to land or other advantages derived from this system. But no one, unless an actual settler as above defined, or unless absent on government service, will be entitled to claim any right to land or property in any settlement by virtue of these orders.
Now, I want you to realize it goes on talking about land. It goes on talking about all the things that we were supposed to be given. This is by order of Major General W.T. Sherman. Now, Sherman supported Lincoln in this, but when Andrew Jackson got into office, he fired Sherman. Did we not hear that in that video?
Yeah.
We heard that in the video. They fired Sherman. They fired this man, and they replaced him. Which video was that? Hold on. Not that one. Might have been this one at the very beginning.
In that freedom, you have to have land.
I made $1 bed, look is all I've had.
At the end of the war, President Abraham Lincoln had promised the freedmen 40 acres of land per family. But those promises died with Lincoln's assassination.
Instead of 40 acres and a mule, they got the Freedmen's Bank. So instead of land, they were given a bank.
Union soldiers were getting bonuses. So the idea was to create a way to encourage the men to save the money so they wouldn't go squander it or be defrauded out of the money.
It was sold to the freedmen as better than giving you the land. You will earn the money through wages, and you will save it, and you'll buy your own land, and you'll feel better about that. Never mind that hundreds of years of working the land didn't count for earning the land.
Now, let me say something that they did say in this video, and I remember I read it somewhere else. They automatically deposited the soldiers' checks into this bank. Does this get deeper? Does this get deeper? They automatically told them, don't worry. We want you to take your check, because they all got checks after this war. And they automatically deposited into this bank. They told them, you have to go into this bank for your money. And then they stole it from them. Now, you done gave your life and served this country, and then they push you into this type of bamboozleness. Is this deep? Y'all should be like, I need to hear some kind of energy from somebody in the chat room. My God, this has got to be unbelievable.
Well, it's deep, but it's business as usual. It's not even really astonishing. They've been, dismantling us since they brought us here in chains. They have been breaking us since they brought us here in chains. So, it's nice to be able to connect the dots, but it doesn't shock me or surprise me, because this has been their MO since we were dragged here. That's how I feel about it. That's how I see it.
Yes. And again, special order number 15. I'm going to put it up so you guys can see it. I'll put the link in the chat room. So I didn't know that you guys couldn't see it. This is it right here, special order number 15. And what was read to you that you heard earlier on January 16th, 1863. I think the emancipation was 1863, but this was 1865. Okay, General Sherman and Lincoln was still alive, and Lincoln and General Sherman were working together. And like I told you, the Gullah people, look at this, the Gullah people and that land. Y'all need to do your homework, but look this up on your own time. Let me show you this map. See this map?
They're trying to take that land from the Gullah people.
Right, they already have. And like I told you, they're building those hotels on top of, they've took the Gullah people and they build those hotels on top of the land. Developers. See, we come from the South, and you said, why this part of the region? And the reason why is because the slave ships, if you start looking over on the towards the right of the screen, the slave ships came from Africa, and the heaviest, densest part of the Africans settled here and started here, and then went across America. Angela, what's your thought on that one?
Child, it's just deep. I'm just thinking of how much we are owed. Like, this is what I'm saying. It continues to go on. You just explained how they built the hotels on the Gullah land. Then this is what happens when you've been neutralized economically. You can't pay for the politics to protect your interests. So we're going to need protections, and they're going to need to be enforced, or we'll be back here as soon as, we get the first deposit. And another thing we're going to have to do is come up with ways to protect whatever we, whatever we ascertain from this reparations fight. We're going to have to protect it for generations to come. We can't allow for it to be compromised in the same way affirmative action was, or we'll be finished.
So see, my mindset is this: instead of going, and we could go back to 1619. I don't think you need to go back that far. Go back further enough that they can't say, well, how can you trace back that far? You don't have to. Trace back to 1863 and 1865, and then talk about the money that you stole and the land that you stole and the land you never allocated. And then how Congress put this bank into place, and how Congress had allowed the soldiers who received checks to go into this bank. I mean, that's thievery all over the place. And then there was never anybody to be in trouble or be recommended for that. I mean, that's just deep. Don't you think that's deep, Angela?
It's deep, but it's white, okay? It's deep, but it's white. It goes back to I'm white and I say so. I mean, all of it is deep when you think about the way our ancestors were killed and how everything was stolen. I mean, this is just, it just continues to happen until, like I said, they managed to extinct you to as few in number as the Indians. We have gone down from, being half the country to now, 12%, while other groups are on the come up and on the rise by design. And we got to do something quickly to stop that and reverse this. This ship, this Titanic is sinking for us.
And they're just stealing left and right. Let's listen to this quick part of this video. Yep. Gullah people.
I still can hear songs like stay in the field, oh, stay in the field, stay in the field until the war is ended.
So what they gonna do? Wait 100 years to give it back to the Gullah people?
Fly chain of islands off the South Carolina and Georgia coast is an almost forgotten community called the Gullah or Geechee people. More than anywhere else in America, they've held on to traditions their ancestors brought from Africa. They've stayed on the isolated former plantation land where those ancestors were once enslaved and developed a culture and language known as Gullah. It seems pretty isolated back here.
Oh, see, now that's what we call insulated. So we feel like we're insulated and kind of kept warm and keep our culture alive away from the mainland culture. So sure, if you went just across a couple bridges and you ended up on the mainland, you'll hear people speaking like this. And then you come across onto these 100 Yeti people are cracking teeth like this all day long and things like that. And they say, huh?
Marquetta Goodwine,
sound like
also known as Queen Quet, still lives on the land where her great-great-grandfather was enslaved 5 generations ago.
We have okra, we plant peanuts, cantaloupe, watermelon, the same things that my great-great-grandfather planted here. And he was the person that actually obtained this land in 1862. So my family has continuously owned it legally since then, but he was actually enslaved here.
Hundreds of plantations ran down the South Carolina and Georgia coast in an area known as the Sea Islands. After the Civil War broke out, the islands were abandoned by the plantation owners, and thousands of people were eventually able to buy the land they were once enslaved on. But today, the landscape is changing.
Folks come in with bulldozers, and the first thing we see is they want to dig up what we've already had for all these generations, and then they want to build something that's antithetical to our culture.
Look,
golf courses, resorts, and condos have replaced Gullah communities.
That's what they do.
Beacon Head Island was the first to be developed.
That's called colonization.
The 42 square mile island is now home to 26 golf courses, brings in 2 million tourists a year, and is considered one of the top vacation destinations in the United States. Gullah burial grounds date.
Well, now this is the part that gets dark for me. Now, hold your thought.
One of the top vacation destinations in the United States.
I'm gonna stop right there. They built the development on top of the. Y'all thought I was lying. That's why I had to stop my mouth and say, "Let me show these people," because I know somebody in this chat room, one of you Negroes or one of you white people, gonna say, "She making this stuff up. Shirley don't know what she talking about." Screw you and the horse that you rode on when you decide to turn this video on and watch me. I want you to look at this video and tell me you don't see graveyards with buildings built in front of them. The whole damn thing of graveyards. They couldn't take down these stones. The stones of slaves are on this building, and these white people have come into these communities, and then you want to know why black people are mad. Why do you say I'm so bad? Why are you guys got attitudes? We all the same. We all deserve the same. No, we're not the same.
No,
because
ma'am.
you have leverage. You stole our land. You got caught these people out of generational wealth because they should have developed this land Instead, they had family members come in and sell off part of the island and let these people, white people, come on in. Hold your thought, Angela.
Antithetical to our culture.
Golf courses, resorts, and condos have replaced Gullah communities. Hilton Head Island was the first to be developed. Once home to about 300 Gullah families, the 42 square mile island is now home to 26 golf courses. It brings in 2 million tourists a year.
300 families were on this island. Instead, they kicked us off for their $2 million, which they probably don't even land lease. They own the land, so they don't have to give you back nothing. Again, we lose. Like Bruce Beach, they need to do whatever the guidelines Bruce Beach did.
And is considered one of the top vacation destinations in the United States. Gullah burial grounds.
Look, Gullah burial grounds.
Ain't that deep?
Let me keep going.
Dating back to the days of slavery, are now the backyards of $1 million condos.
Woo! Angela,
now the backyard.
Did you hear that, Angela?
Girl,
somebody in the chat room said, "Oh, Lord, help us, Jesus."
Makes me mad.
Why does it make you mad, Angela? What's wrong with your ancestors in the backyard of white people in 2021? And none of your congressional black Negro leaders, they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever party they with, they knew all this was going on. The Gullah people have to, and the attorneys jumped involved. This didn't bother them. Look at this. These are headstones. These are headstones, Angela.
It's deep. It's just, girl, makes me so mad.
I mean, I'm just appalled. It's just amazing to me.
Gullah burial grounds dating back to the days of slavery are now the backyards of $1 million condos in opulent gated communities that new locals fondly call plantations.
So look, this is white people saying, I got me some niggas. I got me a condo with nigga slave yards in the back of my condo.
I mean, how offensive. I mean,
why
don't you just go ahead and spit on the people? Just spit on them, because that's exactly what this is. This is sickening. This turns my stomach akin to the Cotton Picking Truth, which is a documentary with a woman who this documentary shows slavery still going on in the deep recesses of the South, particularly Mississippi, where it goes on to this day. And the people went to Congress to try to fight it. But of course, the Republicans are, in the back pockets of the plantation owners, if not descendants of those very people who own the land. And during Obama, he knows all about our people still enslaved in Mississippi. And so these folks can fight as much as they want for their freedom and independence. They're not going to get it because, both sides of the aisle are complicit in making sure slavery continues. And you have to watch the documentary. It's, I want to say, a part of the Prime Video family. It's called The Cotton Picking Truth. But that's how this makes my blood boil right now. In the same way my blood boiled when I learned that slavery still exists in the Deep South. In this country. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind to see this woman who didn't get free until the 60s. And I think it was because her family had to buy her and her family's freedom. You're not going to believe your eyes when you see the way they're living like pigs, having to lay on the bare ground.
And the interesting part, Angela, the interesting part of all that you're saying and all that we're watching, this stuff is relevant today. See, when you talk to white people, let me help you, white people who are watching and my white viewers, when you hear people talk about, why would you go back that far? What sense does all this make? I'm providing you historical records. I'm providing you actual history, locations that you can do your own homework. And at the end of this video, someone mentioned in the chat room, and they're going to put can you put the link in? Yes, Bang, I will put the link in. And by the way, this is the Geechee people, and I know I might have said Gullah incorrectly, so please forgive me, because I didn't grow up around the Gullah.
It's the same thing, Gullah Geechee. It's the Gullah Geechee Nation.
Okay, so I'm saying it correct. Okay. Okay, Gullah Geechee. So, and like Angela said,
this is why they don't want the history taught. This is why white folks, especially on the Republican side, are fighting. I don't call it critical race theory. I call it true American history. Because can you imagine if white folks knew the breadth and depth of the barbarism of their own people and the atrocities leveled at us, akin to George Floyd, ever since they brought us over here in chains? Can you imagine the collective push for our repair if their offspring knew the truth of what they actually did to us? Can you imagine? The streets would overflow in the same way they came out for George Floyd. They would be demanding reparations, because the white folks that know are fighting. They're showing up in the different places speaking on reparations. Thomas Kramer is, I want to say he's from Germany. But you've seen white folks in different spaces speaking up and talking about the real, true American history that these folks don't want taught. This is why our children are as wayward as they are. They don't understand their inheritance, and that's by design.
Family. I mean, in the chat room, Big Black even said, he said they didn't teach this in school. They're not teaching any of this in school. None of it. Me and Angela didn't learn this in school. We had to do our own research. We started putting the puzzle together, connecting the dots. That's why don't let them stop us from reading. They said, don't let the niggas read, because if they can read, they'll know everything.
That's it. And so now that you've got social media, all of this is at your disposal between YouTube and Google. You can just go to school and take this little bit of information, which is a lot of information for people that it's new to, and go and do your own research and see our current Holocaust still being lived in this country. You know how you just know something's wrong, but you don't know quite what? Where you're still living your Holocaust, which is why it's hard for us to go and patronize slavery films, where white folks always like to paint themselves out to be the hero. We can't even be the hero in our own narrative. When we had a ton of freedmen who fought back.
Listen, even in the movies, they now have emasculated the black man. In the movie Eternals, the black man is gay. I think in this Tariq, in his last video, he talked about the cowboy movie that Netflix just put out, and the black girl, she's a lesbian. There's no way, and I think you shared that, didn't you, Angela? We were talking about that.
I shared that, yes, because I'm actually going to do a video on how they are still stuck on this colorism. Stagecoach Mary was not, a thug. She didn't go around the country. She was one of our sheroes. And she was tall, and she was black, and she was around 200 pounds. And she, Stagecoach Mary, worked for the USPS because they could not go into Indian territory. White folks could not, or they would be scalped for what they did to the Indian people. And that's how come you got an overwhelming number of black freedmen who worked for the post office. And Stagecoach Mary was one of them. But what do? They make her a thug, and they make her light bright, and they make her biracial, and they make her the love interest. And they do all these things to corrupt and to co-opt and to colorize and to fictionize a very rich history that doesn't fictionize.
And to confuse you about real historical people and give you a definition and an interpretation of not the truth of who they are. It's like looking up a word that says ice cream, and then you read the definition, it gives you a breakdown of how an engine's built. It's like, that's not even the same thing. That's how often it is. So
Right, but
y'all
it's
need to
so
keep in mind, you
often
need to be homework.
it's a disservice to our children, who, if their
Yes.
parents don't know the history, 9 times out of 10 can't correct them. That was what the problem was with Cynthia Erivo, a Nigerian descendant of slave traders, playing our shero Harriet Tubman, and you got the black bounty hunter killing freedmen. Okay, so while there may have been some black bounty hunters, this is not the way the history is documented wherein Harriet Tubman's lineage is concerned. But they want to build all this fiction into it and sensationalize it. Would they do this to the Jews?
No.
No. So why in the world do we allow them to make our men effeminate, to make our men the murderers of who we are? But this is what they did to Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom should really be Uncle Sambo. Uncle Tom was a friend to the slaves. If your bag was short of cotton, he would put more cotton in your bag so you wouldn't have to get beat. And because he wouldn't do the master's bidding, Sambo, which you could consider like Coon Clyburn, would step in and do what Tom would not do. Tom would not beat the slaves. He would try to help the slaves so they would not have to suffer the beatings. And what do white folks do? They co-opt the whole entire narrative from Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom Cabin to have you hating the very thing you should embrace.
Hold on,
and
hold
that's
your thought.
why when the white folks go left, you need to go right. When the white folks go right, you need to go left. They mean you're no good.
Let me play a little bit more of this Geechee Island so that you guys realize this is 2021 of where we are today with people who have land that was originally given to us. And now big developers say, oh, beachfront property. Niggas own it. We have to do it like we take it back, like Bruce Peach. Listen.
It wasn't given to us. We earned that.
Absolutely. Hold on. Let's just play the video.
Burial grounds dating back to the days of slavery are now the backyards of million-dollar condos in opulent gated communities that new locals fondly call plantations. That development boom is slowly spreading to other areas nearby. You can hear right now construction in the distance, something else being built.
Yeah. One of the things that you'll notice that you'll never see outside of Gullah Geechee homes usually are signs like that. No trespassing.
Well, that's part of the interesting thing is that the land that the Gullah Geechees own, it's all communally owned.
Absolutely, yeah. Most people live on what is in the law called heirs property. And that's because our ancestors during the U.S. Civil War now bought property. And so Gullah Geechees became the first group of people of African descent in North America to own land in mass.
Gullah landowners sought to own the land communally among their extended family. Over generations, this communally owned land was passed down to hundreds of heirs, often without legal documents like wills or clear titles. An informal shared ownership system developed, which came to be known as heirs property. Until recently, heirs property arrangements kept family properties from being sold because families depended on the land and each other. But today, developers are using legal loopholes to acquire heirs property, sometimes for pennies on the dollar, whether the people living there want to sell or not.
Eminent domain.
We visited Willie Hayward, a local attorney who helps Gullah families protect their property.
Angela, what's your thought on all that?
Well, first of all, they have the unmitigated gall to refer to the property as plantation still. I mean, that's
so disrespectful. That's so disrespectful.
It is unconscionable that you come in and you take the people's land from finding, once again, this is what happens when you've been neutralized economically. You can't pay for the proper representation to keep you tied to the land. And so this is no different than what happened with Black Wall Street, Bruce's Beach, and all of our property throughout the entire country. When white folks decide that they've had enough of you having anything, even though you build it up and you make it what it is and you work to have it, you work for free. Your ancestors toiled the land for free under the most brutal, heinous chattel slavery known to the free world. And then white folks just decide, no, I'm superior. I get to hoard all the wealth at the top, and you get to be the anchor of it, because capitalism requires an anchor. So I'm going to make you bottom caste. And whenever you make a few strides, I'm just going to come in and lynch and kill and burn it down and render you economically neutralized so that you have a hard time rebuilding. And then I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to tell you to pull yourself up by your bootless straps. And I'm going to compare you to the immigrants whom I'm giving your reparations to give them a pathway to SBA loans to own businesses in your community, because I'm only going to import the immigrants that hate you as much as I do. So I can make them the new POC, white oppressors, the new Black immigrant white oppressors. And then I'll have them believing in the same bullshit lies that I've spun a web around your own people to make you believe that you're shiftless, no good, no count, and lazy, and simply don't want to work, to justify all of my puckery surrounding rendering you the anchor of my capitalism. And I'll make you dependent on the government, because you can go out here and have babies. And now I'm going to take away your right to abort, because I've made it so that you can't afford your own children. So you've had to give about 2 million babies back to God, which stagnates the growth of your people, while Latinas come over here and get to play both sides of the racial card. They get to identify as people of color to demand reparations to the tune of $500,000 apiece for crossing the border illegally and being separated from their families that they send over here to gain access to the country. And as soon as our reparations are spent to make them millionaires, then they'll start to vote the line of the Republicans. Okay? So this is what I think of all of it. It is just, it angers me, you know, and this is why I have my channel and I go all the way in unapologetically Freedmen. I expose it, and I don't care who it makes mad. I don't care what you call me. I'm going to tell it like it is. But this is the hand of the white man in this country, who is constantly trying to make us the most loving, forgiving people in the world, the face of their debauchery, while lying to their seed and pretending to be superior as if they've worked for it, when in fact they killed and stole and continue to kill and steal for it. I'll take a breath.
Everything that you're saying is right on point. Because if we talk about it and think about it, it can make you mad. It can make you frustrated. It can make you say, this is unreal. No, it's reality. These people have been stealing from us for decades.
And then tell you you're not working hard enough. And then when you show up after you get your degrees, now you're relegated to working gig jobs, because they now make your affirmative action intended to make you whole, intended to level the playing field. They've now taken and co-opted and corrupted it to benefit white women, immigrants, and LGBTQIA, and you have no social capital at those tables to protect your interests while you're strung out on 6 figures worth of student loan debt. And then you see students sleeping outside of the number 2 HBCU in the nation's capital, because their dormitories are infested with mold and rats and roaches and people having sex on the steps and spotty Wi-Fi, and they can't do their work and the whole 9 yards. And you're expecting them to pay, I think I did the math, a 4-year degree at Howard University is $197,000. And they're now sleeping in the Blackburn Center, and you got an immigrant president from Trinidad who makes damn near $200,000 a year, who's threatening to stick the police on them because they choose to occupy the Blackburn Center, and living on the yard with rats as big as possums before they go back into what? Redlined, environmentally challenged tenement housing for an education by the time they're done, undergraduate, will cost them $197,000 in student loan debt. And they can't even come out here and get a job commensurate with what they spent on their education. But we are told that we're lazy, shiftless, no good, and no count. And looky at all the immigrants that we use your reparations on to make them whole in your communities, to take it over, to put the boot on the neck when we're not there as a placeholder.
And to tell the family where they can reach you.
The Reparations Perspective YouTube. I hold no punches. And don't come over there if you're not an ally or if you're not a freedman. I don't want to hear from you. You will get blocked.
Family, what we said today and what we showed you today was very powerful. Again, I want you to understand that you need to know your own history. You need to understand how you have power in this country and it was stolen from you. Make sure that you do your homework and realize, and this is the last link I want to show you, we need to understand that Black people, former slaves, were robbed $66 million. Now today that would be in trillions. And this site here talks about how African-American men and women under the Freedmen Bureau Bank Act, it was an act allocated by Congress that your people put money in 1871. I'm giving you facts, okay? 1871, Congress created this bank, had us put all this money into this bank to 1874, which clearly they talk about the 61,000 plus Black depositors were robbed over $66 million. And these banks were failures. And they knew they were robbing us and they were laughing. Go to urbanintelligence.com to get more information on this. But they kind of break it down. Note that here's an image of a Freedmen automatic piggy bank. This is the piggy bank that they found this as an amusement, and they gave it to white children of this Black man. See, this is a piggy bank. And white kids said, this man thinking he gonna keep that money. They should have put under this piggy bank a white man with his hat collecting it. That's what it should have. They should have kept it and said, let's create this, and then create the white man, because you would put your coin in and it would pop in, and then they would give it, drop it down to the bottom. We speaking facts to my family tonight. We're speaking facts to them. And the only way you're going to be able to know who you are and what you bring to the table is that you have to first do your own DNA. Now, some of y'all don't want to do your DNA, then sign up and do your genealogy. Do your genealogy. Your genealogy is your grandmother, your uncle, your aunt, your cousin. I showed you do that tree. But if you're willing to cross the riverbed and you really want to get all the damn benefits and let Ancestry work with you, like we've said in this previous video, where the lady tells you that you are now part
agrarian economy.
of the Freedmen Bureau people.
At the end of the war, President Abraham Lincoln had promised the freedmen 40 acres of land per family. But those promises died with Lincoln's assassination.
So they created that bank. I keep being redundant and repetitive because sometimes we as people don't understand that these people have been stealing for us for so long. And we just don't get it. I want us to get it. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share this video, share with your friends, your families. Please make sure that you click the like button, make comments below after this video, and tell me what's your thought. Do you think that we're overextending our energy? Are we just hypothetically going to allow our history to become fictional movie characters that are distorted and their history and their lives not being truly told? That we're not showing the true dark melanin people at the turn of the history? Instead, we rather show biracial and light-skinned and pretty people that are more palatable for white America. I mean, come on. Are we going to allow the black man, the alpha black man, to continue to be emasculated and brutally just on TV? I'm speechless, which is very rare for me. But when I talk about the black man and emasculation and how they just misogyny and the things that they do to create these images in film with our young men are just so hurting and so disrespectful, especially even if you watch some of these young high school shows or some of these young college Netflix shows. And I'm gonna say Netflix because every time you get to the black boy, he's dark and he's gay. He's medium skinned and he's gay. Why do we have to be the gay character? Because we are getting to... Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say that's part of the agenda. The agenda is to extinct us to as few in numbers as the Indians. We've gone from over 50% in terms of population to 12%, and they're working on reducing us to numbers as minimal as the Indians until we just become history that will never be taught accurately if we don't fight back. We're fighting for the very, not just existence, but for our lineage to thrive. We're fighting for the truth. We're fighting for the minds of our young Black children. We're fighting for the Black family unit. We got a lot of fights here, and we need all hands on deck. So they need to be emailing either you or me to join us in these efforts. You know, we're working with the grassroots all over the country. And you see with Miss Shirley here, the movement takes catnap. Our people are forever in our hearts, in our minds, in our thoughts about how to overcome and eat this elephant one bite at a time within like the next year. Like we are out of time, seriously out of time. And so I'm constantly teaching the weaponization of our vote. As long as we got a blue top that we can't get rid of, we got to vote red Congress. And when this tide turns, we must put red at the top henceforth and a blue Congress until times get better, until we can replace the lanes in the CBC with full-chested cash reparationists, because that window's closing. That CBC is comprised of a lot of immigrants. Right now, you've got the very immigrant, Sheila Jackson Lee. She's over our HR 40, which is the study for our reparations. And it wasn't until the former ADOS movement got involved in those social media spaces that reparations even became a household name. And those signatures went from like 5 to damn near 200 because of us. And so right now we're working on fixing HR 40. And when you see that campaign, we need all hands on deck to make that go viral, because they're literally sitting up here wanting $12 million to study our repair when they're already paid elected officials. They got a $125 million pay raise during the pandemic under Biden or Trump. I can't remember which. You can Google it. But they just got a pay raise, and now they want $12 million to study our repair into perpetuity. It's nothing but a money grab for them, and they got the unmitigated gall to not be requiring cash be attached. Well, why is that? Because CARICOM has no cash attached. And they want those reparations for all Blacks, when, like I told you at the earlier top of the show, all Black ain't freedmen Black. And the Black immigrants that come here have enough money to make them white. And what money they don't have, this government gives them to make them white, to make them above us so that they can be our Black white oppressors. Now, when I speak, I don't speak about all whites or all immigrants. There are some exceptions, but clearly not enough if we're tethered to the bottom as the anchor of this country's capitalism, which puts us in the midst of the fight to prevent that spot from becoming permanent. There is no way in the world we should be in a race to the bottom when we descend from the very ancestors whose heinous chattel slavery built all the wealth these groups eat from. So you've got to decide what side of history you're going to be on. With Miss Shirley HUSAR's teachings and my teachings and the new black media, because you're not going to see this on the corporate with 3Ks lamestream media. They're not going to talk about it through a Freedmen lens like Miss Shirley HUSAR and myself. I'm going to take a breath. I want to thank you so much for being here at this late hour. I want to thank you, Miss Shirley, for loving us so much, for teaching us so much, for empowering us so much. I'm just so grateful to be able to call you my sister friend and comrade in this fight for what is right, in this fight for justice. It's a blessing to fight alongside you. I've learned a whole lot.
I'm so grateful to have you in my life because the energy that you put out, and people will always say, well, she's angry. She's angry. She's not angry. She's passionate. And because people misinterpret our emotions for anger, they cut off. But for those who can endure and say, well, let me just hear more. Let me just hear more. We're not ranting. We're not babbling. We're providing you facts and little bits of history so you can go more in depth on your time and your energy. And hopefully next time we can get some people to come on the chat room and say, hey, I did my homework from the previous videos and I learned even more. See, it starts, my family, with me and you. And I'm so grateful. Angela, did you really learn something new tonight? I mean, what's your takeaway real quick? I know I'm so grateful for the accolades you always give me, but I mean, I learned, I was shocked to know that Ancestry.com right now said they are putting together a Freedmen Bureau collection. And that if you sign up with them, you can put your name in and you can prove that you are historical Freedmen Bureau connected. That is essential for the long-term goal of reparations of money and land that should be allocated to us. Angela, what's your final thought on that one?
Yeah, I learned the same thing. And then the other thing I learned was that Gullah Island is now Hilton Head, like has been Hilton Head. I didn't even know those things were synonymous. I was sitting up here foolishly believing that they were the only ones still able to hold on to their land. So it was great to learn the Gullah Geechee, that they've been co-opted in the same way all of us have, that are the freedmen. And just, it was just another opportunity to embrace being freedmen, to really look at my growth from the ADOS movement to now being full-chested about my freedmen lineage. Not necessarily, I embrace it, I descend from chattel slavery, but there's something very empowering in the word freedman and it being tied to already existing value and benefits that we're entitled to. And for me, when we come up with a strategy to extract what is already on the books, then, I'll really be over the moon thrilled. This fight is not just for my daughter and my grandkids and my great-grandkids. This fight is for the very lineage, the very thriving of the freedmen people in this country that we built. And that's something to be proud of. And that's something in my association with the Reparationist movement at large that has happened for me. This overwhelming pride in something that white folks and immigrants tried to shame, some, not all, at every turn. And with that being said, I don't really care if they call me the angry Black woman. I don't care if when I fight for the Black family unit, I'm referred to as a homophobe. When I've got, gays all up in my family, not a whole bunch of them, but, I've got gay friends, I've got a gay uncle. I don't care if you call me xenophobe because I choose to unflatten Blackness, which unmasks the failures of this government by freedmen. Because my ancestors didn't give a damn what you thought about their fight to be emancipated. If they stopped and paid attention to the naysayers, I wouldn't be on this live with you right now, Miss Shirley. I'd be somewhere in the cotton field picking cotton, and you know, I'd have a white baby on the tip instead of my own. So I come from a freed woman. I come from freed women who don't give a damn what you think. I've accepted that I'm not for everybody, and turned down for what? My ancestors didn't turn down. I'm one of those freedmen, like one of those slaves who fought back. That's who I want to learn about. I want to know, and I want to be amongst the freedmen and the slaves who fought back. That's how I want to go down in history. So everybody gets to choose how they go down in history. Are you going to do it meekly? Are you going to step into your inheritance? And so this is the way I step into my inheritance boldly, and I accept that I'm not for everybody. You can find me at the Reparationist Perspective if you're ready to step into your inheritance in boldness like our ancestors did. Thank you again, Shirley.
Thank you for having me on your show, and thank you for being on my show. Family, it starts with me and you. It starts with me and you. And, you know, we talk about God, family, and country. Keep in mind the foreclosures are coming, the forbearances are going to be released, and many of you guys are not financially structured. And many of you guys need to migrate back to the South. You need to go back to the lands of your ancestors so you can hear that ground talk to you, because these urban communities are wiping us out. We are on the verge of trying to have us become an extinct species of people. That's why we have our sponsor, Cal Texas Homes. Make sure you guys go to caltexashomes.com and get a free consultant, have a free comparative analysis so you can determine the value of your home. And even if you don't have any money and you need to rent, we help you and connect you with companies that will give you a lease with option to purchase with very little money. We want to help our people, and one of the peoples that are working with us and helping us in our sponsorship is Cal Texas Home. I want to wish you guys the very best. Continue to hold your head up. Continue to be proud. Continue to remember you don't represent the past. You represent the future, and you represent the opportunity and the right to reclaim that was yours that needs to be yours now. At the end of this video, I will put in a disclosure allowing YouTube and those who know that our videos are done for educational purposes. We are not making any profit off of these videos. So we do this for educational purpose. If you do want to gift to our Cash App, you're more than welcome to. I'll put that link on the bottom as well. But for YouTube and for those regarding legal rights, we do this, and we do this because we want our people to be educated. And these are our own hypothetical ideas of the results that could happen from it, but it's also historical, factual ideas on the history that was provided. So please make sure you read that down below. And if you guys have any more questions or any more comments, and let me know, should we continue on this route of these type of videos? Otherwise, I'll sit back and relax and let you guys enjoy your life. But you have to use wisdom, because food, water, and shelter should be your priority thing to focus on. And the new reverse migration of our people, how can we collaborate together as freedmen people, understanding the Negroes and the colored people who did not receive the benefits of this land that they created. God bless you. Stay strong and put Christ first. Thank you for your time and energy.
It's happening.